have you been? How's your day been today?
It's quite crowded with things.
Awesome. Where are you calling from? What part of the world are you in?
Currently, I'm in Berlin.
That's
I'm at a co-working space called Full Node.
That's awesome. I think we'll jump right into it. I think the first questions we love to ask our guest is how did you get introduced to the world of crypto? Because I feel like everyone has such a unique story to it. So I would love to know from you.
The introduction was pretty short. I just somehow heard about Bitcoin and I liked the name. I was a geek in computer science, first year of college, I think 2013 or so, or 12 maybe. And, bit, and I kept, it was also a period in my life where I kept zooming into more and more about the sort of machine language, not just the higher level programming languages that I had used before in high school. And yeah, just bit and coin. So it's like, oh, amazing. We need money to be controlled by technology, not by old people and governments.
Absolutely. I think that's a point a lot of us can relate to. And a lot of work that, Lawrence has been doing is about longevity. And before we dive into the deep question on, deep conversation around, what got you started in that space, I would love if in like one line you could explain to someone who's new in the space on what really is longevity and then start with, what is making you work towards it.
Yeah, I think the best way to look at it is trying to bring aging under medical control, looking at aging as the medical problem it is, as the root cause for all of the chronic diseases that come with age. You get Alzheimer's and cancer and heart disease and diabetes and so on. All of these sort of go up exponentially with age in terms of the chance you get them. And COVID, by the way, as well, is also, it goes up exponentially, the chance of dying, right, with age.
Yeah.
So if you keep people healthy and young, and you prevent all of these diseases, and people can contribute more, and instead of being kept in a poor state of health for longer by the current paradigm of treating symptoms with pharma drugs.
Absolutely. And I think just to be in voice of the audience, someone might say, why is it important to work, towards longevity? Because it's just something that's, God's plan, right? Like people age, that's like just a part of life. So I would love for you to talk about the importance of like, why do you feel like it's important for us to address these and look them as challenges, something for us to interfere in, something towards to work towards them?
People said this about everything, right? Even antibiotics, what are we gonna do? It's unnatural. We're gonna have overpopulation. People are gonna eat each other because they're not gonna die of these diseases that most people died of, like bacterial infections, viral infections. And obviously nobody is making an argument to bring back cholera.
Yes.
And also with cancer as well, it had a story about just people thought it's people die of natural causes, but then we identified, okay, so this specific type of thing that's happening with age, more and more DNA mutations, more chances you get cancer, and so it's cancer, and we gotta fight it. The nice thing there is that a lot of kids also got it, or not a lot, but a few, but they're loud and emotional stories.
Yeah.
Even though obviously still old people get most cancer. I think that helped a lot with the
perspective
sort of PR campaign around cancer.
Right.
So I think we need to do the same for aging, just sort of look at it as, sure, it's natural. A lot of bad things are natural. The question is, how can we do something about it?
Absolutely. I would love for you to talk about Vita DAO, the start, the story, and journey. Like, I feel like the audience would even love to hear about your work around it.
I was trying to make I noticed this sort of intersection between the top KOLs in crypto and the idea of longevity biotech. Saw Vitalik Buterin as one of the most known, and Balaji Srinivasan and Brian Armstrong and Jed McCaleb and so on. The list goes on of people that are aligned with this new way of doing medicine. And I think it kind of makes sense. You have people that are futurists and and very much forward thinking, and they also probably identify with something that's sort of dismissed by the incumbents, right? The way I was trying to do it before Vita DAO was to make a sort of non-profit DAO where we would pool money together and have a bonding curve for the token, and sort of give money away to the labs that are lesser known. It just made sense to kind of unite, to give a native way for people in crypto to contribute to longevity. If so many millions of people are interested in this.
Yeah.
And then VitaDao sort of got born from Molecule's IP NFT framework, enabling it to have a treasury that is backed by real assets in the real world, intellectual property, real drugs that are that the DAO owns rights to via an NFT that represents the legal contract. Right. So I joined a few months before launch, and we had a fair auction where everyone could bid for the token, including ourselves. There was no pre-sale or allocation to a team or anything.
Yeah.
And then after people bought the token, then everyone got the same price based on supply and demand. Then there was a vote to give us a budget and so on, and it's been about a year now, a year and a few months since we launched.
That's amazing. So initially you guys started VitaDao for a way to raise funds to be able to fund these less popular labs?
Initially, I was that was the way I was trying to do it before VitaDao, and with VitaDao is literally purchasing assets, purchasing rights to IP, basically funding research projects in academia or biotech companies.
Right.
Doing that research, so you build some intellectual property, you get some patents maybe, and then at some point these get, of course, spun out into startups. And these startups can, of course, raise money from traditional venture capital and angel investors. Yeah. But unlike other areas like crypto, in crypto you can just start a company or raise money with a token to fund your idea. In science, usually you need a government grant for when the idea is quite basic. And then only after you have a patent, you can raise money from angels and VCs. Whereas in tech, you can raise from the beginning. Yeah. So it's quite different in that way. It's not something that researchers usually do. They don't start companies, just like programmers didn't used to do maybe in the 90s or 80s. So I think the biotech industry is also ripe for the same kind of innovation that occurred in tech.
Absolutely. What was the date when did VitaDao was born? What was that date? You said it's been a year?
June 18th was when we started the auction, and June 23rd was when we ended the auction, and then maybe the smart contract was deployed sometime in August.
I see. And at that time, did you imagine your community to become so big? Because I feel like one would feel like, oh, it's still a niche, right? Like decentralized science and working towards longevity. But today you guys are 14,000 followers on Twitter and one of the strongest, most amazing community working around such an important mission. So do you ever think about that?
I thought by now we'll have $1 billion in the treasury, but actually, of course, I mean, I'm not realistic in my hopes, but I definitely I'm definitely humbled by all that's happened. The space has grown so much with DeSci, right? And we definitely have a good sitting in this, and that just means the inflection point is still in front of us. It's going to come soon, where the world starts realizing this new way of doing things. Absolutely. It's much better, and we've proven that it's not just ideas. We've actually executed. We've funded over 15 research or projects in general, and we've deployed about $3 million.
That is amazing.
And we have a lot more to deploy.
That's so awesome. What is even realistic? The fact I find that conversation is so fascinating because what is very realistic for you could be really outrageous for me. And I think I was just having this discussion with a friend. Like it's about like having the audacity to ask, having the audacity to have such a big dream. Because is crypto realistic? You know, the fact that we have like DAOs we're working in, bringing all these people together with a shared mission from different parts of the world, different currencies, whatnot. I think none of this is quote unquote realistic, but here we are. So I think it's awesome that you guys have such a big ambition and are working towards it. You guys recently had a partnership going on with Pfizer. Like that was a huge, huge, huge moment. Talk about that. How did that happen?
Honestly, just they came on our Discord and meetings, and they started talking to us. We have these Friday meetings where we sort of sync and go through the deal flow and assign projects and so on. And yeah, someone from Pfizer Ventures really wanted to get involved and started commenting on our governance forum where we put out projects, and they were asking amazing questions, and
Right.
they've been providing value. And so we started this sort of first institutional genesis fundraise to allow institutions like pharma companies like Pfizer and other sort of VC funds that we can sort of collaborate with on deal flow and so on, for them to be members of Vita DAO as institutions. Because we call them strategic members, so they can indeed contribute capital, but also they have to not be passive because it's not a security and so on. Everyone has to govern, but we want strategic input. So deal flow, help with governance and tokenomics and so on from each sort of entity. And you can see all of these on our governance forum, the proposals, what each one provides, and it's still up for voting, and it's going to go on chain soon.
That's awesome. I would love to ask you, I understand the mission that Vita DAO has. I would love to ask, Lawrence personally, what is it that you would say is your mission? What is it something that drives you personally?
I really love life, and I want to do everything that's needed and possible. And people say it's impossible to prolong this amazing existence. I'm really curious to see the future. And I'm quite optimistic, but also realistic. So I'm trying to use a scientific approach to how can I have the most impact. And definitely the answer right now is working on aging and accelerating progress. So we have more startups that are targeting aging and making therapeutics, drugs, gene therapies, and so on. And advancing those as fast as possible into humans, proving the model, and then hopefully the world wakes up from the pro-aging trance, and we've got 1 billion people mobilized towards this as a moonshot, as a new approach to medicine and the way to do it.
That is phenomenal. What would you say made you passionate about the Web3 space and especially its intersection with science? Would love for you to expand on that.
So, as I was saying earlier, in science, you need to rely on government grants usually, and especially with something like longevity. Imagine if crypto needed government funding to get started, right? Instead of just individuals and VCs and so on providing some of that seed funding. So this is the state of science today, and that's why we need decentralized science. We need the people to decide. This is even though it's dismissed by the incumbents, the ones sitting at the NIA and all the funding agencies, we actually think that this is how we should do it. We should prevent these diseases instead of keeping people suffering for longer with drugs that they got to take every year, every day, whatever. And yeah, we can sort of get together, have our own sort of incentive systems, incentive mechanisms for funding, one, for execution, two, for people to sort of go get away with the bureaucracy that is usually in academia and in biotech, just easily exchange lab services and everything that they need to do on the execution layer to innovate instead of the old system with all its sort of petrified problems. And then also on the publishing side, so instead of the model where you had these printed magazines that you would send out to people, now you can just put something online. The problem is journals are still requiring review pre-publication, so that can be in Nature. Sometimes it's delayed in the journal Nature. I've seen delays of like up to a year from when the paper is submitted until it's published.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine to go through a review period, but it could be much faster. And
Absolutely.
especially during COVID, you've seen people just post papers out for a preprint server, which is great. But the problem was it's just a PDF. Ideally, you would have like on the side, like a comment section with upvotes and like you see on Hacker News or Reddit, just rethinking publishing as well and the way we do peer review. So VitaDao has a side project on that as well. We call it TLDR, the Longevity Decentralized Review.
Yeah.
And also starting a fully fledged journal that is going to actually pay researchers to review and actually pay people to be editors, as opposed to the usual way of doing things where nobody is paid. All these researchers are using government funding to do their work, and then they review other papers for free, and then the journals keep all the revenue, but don't even give it to the public.
Absolutely.
They don't give the right. So I think we need open access, pay for peer review, but also pay the people with using that money.
Yeah. I think that's so amazing what you're doing, right? Like rewarding talent, and I feel like that's exactly what Web3 is about, for like creators to have ownership, have flexibility, and have like decision-making power. So you say, when is this journal and publishing thing going live, or is it live already?
There is a longevity.review as a sort of MVP for a peer review service and preprint server.
Right.
And then the journal with a bunch of really top people in the field as editors and reviewers. That it's just ongoing. We don't have like a date or anything, but I can tell you that all of the team from the Aging Cell journal by Wiley quit because they weren't paid and the conditions were not ideal for science.
Right.
So we're trying to do something with them.
That's awesome. I think we will be definitely looking extremely forward for that. And community, we will very soon have community questions for you guys to ask Lawrence, any of your questions. So please feel free to, drop them in the chat below. And talking about Web3, I understand why you are passionate about it, and thank you so much for sharing. But why specifically work around DAOs? I'd love to know that.
Because of this, the vision of doing science in a decentralized way, questioning more easily the ways things are done, and having a quick sort of innovation, iteration cycle to try all kinds of new mechanisms and new organizational structures, and not be constrained by any sort of centralized dictator or something that is trying to regulate and hinder progress. So I see a lot of hindrances in what we are doing to sort of allow people to be faster at the innovations we need for longevity ultimately.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that when in this space, with all the scalability and the permissionless nature and the open nature and transparent, not only can we get more people to easily add value, easily be empowered financially if they're intrinsically motivated to, but also just try to get away with those barriers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one of the, we just hosted Lucas. I feel like you might know Lucas as model on our last Discord space, and he was so excited for you to feature on a guest today's Monday episode. And this was something he was talking about, that the amazing thing about DAOs is like, they're permissionless and people get to decide. But what DAOs I feel like today are struggling with is people are not being able to go full time in DAOs, right? Because most of the DAOs are not well funded, right? People at the end of the day have to pay their rent, have to put food on the table, and because of that, they're missing out on talent. And even if they do have talent, because people are really driven by the mission, people are still part-time in DAOs, so they're not able to you can imagine being part-time committed towards something versus being full-time committed towards something. So did you have that problem initially of gathering talent, bringing people onto Vita and stuff like that?
I would say no. Before we launched, we've had a great team of people that were just really excited about the vision. And then probably also lucky enough to somehow be free to do it without too many
Constraints.
requirements, right? Constraints.
Yeah.
And then even now, I think, after we launched, we had the funding, so we could pay people. But I think I'm quite happy to say that a lot of people are just really intrinsically motivated, and we've made it work. And also because it's so scalable and so permissionless, it's been working out quite well, especially when it comes to deal flow, like sourcing projects. You just have to spend an hour from time to time to talk to a few people and see if you can refer a research project to us if you're in that specific field, and then you get tokens or money, right? And I think that just really worked out. And also for evaluation, we have experts who already have their professor proposition at the university, and they wouldn't need to be full-time, right? They just get paid per each review that they make for one of our projects.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think one of the interesting questions we like to ask our audiences, because we know how time consuming the space of Web3 and crypto is, but apart from crypto and DAOs, what are other side passion projects or passions of yours that you spend a lot of time in?
Well, none that I spend a lot of time in, I think.
That make you happy.
I really love just having amazing geeky conversations, especially around effective altruism and the existential risks and how we can mitigate all of those.
Yeah.
After we cure aging, which is 100% chance we die, we need to also deal with the some percentage chance we get hit by an asteroid or pandemic or AI alignment and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm also just passionate about personal health and biohacking, which is not exactly part of the longevity biotech field, which is still early and doesn't have anything approved by clinical trials. But I'm also looking at some of that, even though I don't have time for that. I think another big piece, even before getting into the longevity space, I was quite interested in mind augmentation and brain-machine interfaces, and just transcending and sort of preparing for the technological singularity that I think is coming. I'm also a burner, so I like the sort of abundance culture of Burning Man and communities and exploring consciousness and psychedelics and so on. And also a big space geek. I like astrophysics and chemistry and biology and computing and so on. But I really want to go to space after we sort of have this aging problem handled.
Yes.
So yeah.
Well, that's super awesome. So have you ever been to a Burning Man or something?
Yeah. I've been going for some time.
And how was your experience? Was it everything that you imagined or better, or was it underwhelming?
Completely different. I was going there for some more superficial and vanity reasons, and then I discovered how to really connect with people and what really matters in life, and so that's why I kind of pivoted towards the field of longevity. I think that was the spark many years ago, going to Burning Man and meeting some people that are key and some of my dearest friends now.
That's amazing. I love music festivals, and of course Burning Man is the epitome of an amazing festival. And guys, if you don't know what Burning Man is, I highly recommend you find out and add it to your bucket list because it is like phenomenal. The intersection of like people coming together, music, and all sorts of other things you can imagine. So I think that's awesome. And chat, please like write down your questions. I feel like this is an amazing time where you can like just directly ask Lawrence anything you want to. But in the meanwhile, Lawrence, I'd have to ask you, operating in a DAO, it is still such an ambiguous place. It is still like constantly evolving. There's so many moving parts that, we're still yet to understand. What would you say has been like a current pain point that you've been facing at Vita DAO?
I think scaling, especially around a lot of people that are indeed more part-time, and how can we enable people to have agency and do a lot of things without needing, because we try to be a super flat organization. So I'm a steward of the deal flow working group, but that doesn't mean I'm a boss of anyone, right? I just kind of try to facilitate for the other members to do each thing and sort of have the responsibility towards the DAO to hit the goals that we have and provide that guidance. But yeah, definitely need more people that are very intrinsically motivated and are willing to grind and do things even full time. Especially, I'm looking for someone full time on the sort of venture associate role of deal flow sourcing and getting the deals evaluated and by experts and negotiating, and then ultimately a lot of help right now is needed in spinning out the projects we funded already. Some of them are more ready to be spun out into startups and then to fundraise and to be operated like a real company in biotech. So we need experienced people to do that. But I think everyone can help, even with awareness and with legal and with just about operations, and so anyone can contribute in various ways. So I'd love to see you in the Discord and sort of chatting there and sharing ideas and offering help with various things that are going on, and you can see going on there.
That's awesome. Something we're working towards is DaoLens, one of the products is an onboarding tool, and we've integrated that onboarding tool on our own Discord. And we are very soon making a new flow going live. And our community mostly exists of DAO admins, but what we're realizing is so many admins need like amazing contributors, right? Like that's how the DAO, gets running. So, but they were struggling with reputation management. Like if people would even end up in the Discord, they're like, okay, who are you? What's your level of experience? Can I trust you? And especially in a place like science and stuff where expertise is needed, passion alone is like not enough. So the flow that we've incorporated is where we're asking people, what is their level of contribution in DAOs, what is it, what are their skill set, what are their interests and stuff like that, and then we will be able to collect a lot of that data on the back end so that tomorrow we can start mapping admins to contributors, like, oh, you want a proficient, level of contribution. If you want a beginner in research or lawyer or whatever your skill set is, like, these are the list of people you can look at. So I feel like once we actually do end up collecting that pool very soon, I would love for you to get connected to and help us know that who is it that you're specifically looking for. We can give you recommendations and pools. And we also ask people to link in their LinkedIn profile or resume or some proof of work where you're also able to evaluate how closely you guys have these synergies associated. So would love to know from you if you are interested in that. In the meanwhile, if anyone else is super interested in stuff like that, so how can they apply if someone needs to reach out to you, and if any of these roles are interesting, how is it that people can reach to you?
I think just in our Discord, there on the Start Here channel, you have some instructions, and in general, just get involved. Don't be a stranger. Show that you care. Come up with ideas on how you could help. Just make it easy for us to empower you, and so you can add value.
Absolutely. And Lawrence, I'd love for you to know, because you have been in this space for a while, what is your perspective on people's negative connotation towards crypto? Calling it a fad, calling it that it's not going to last very long. A lot of people are associating crypto with like saying like NFT booms. They're mixing up DAOs and NFTs and Dogecoin and whatnot. And I feel like the more I am learning about DAOs, it's just something I've never seen like anything before. So I'd love for you to know, like, how is it that, you deal with comments like these, if any?
Well, ultimately, we are heads down and building and funding projects that I think will be very valuable, so that will flow back into the treasury and will fund more research, and our mission is fulfilled. So it doesn't, all of these things don't really matter as much. Of course, now if people would sort of start looking deeper and seeing how important this is, and sort of we could have 1 billion people that care about aging, and maybe a few million of those come in and participate in Vita DAO. Of course, our token is going to be able, we're going to be able to issue the token and fundraise billions of dollars and have even more impact. So obviously it helps a lot if people sort of open their eyes here. But even if not, we're doing good work and things are going to come.
That's awesome. And I'm so glad to hear that, like they say, bear market is for the builders, right? Like all the noise has died down, everything's died down, and you can actually like really focus on building. Phenomenal. Lawrence, I think towards the end, I would just like to ask you is, what is one message that you would like to say to the people? Why is it that they should care about being in the Web3 space? And even like any personal advice that you would really like to share if you had something to say.
One advice would be to really think about what matters to you and how you can minimize your bias and look at how you can have the biggest impact in the thing that matters to you. And then look at what, if Web3 is a good sort of tool for that. It's ultimately, it's an experiment. You might want to just try and join a Discord for a week and see. I think it's fun and maybe you'll learn some stuff. Yeah. And if not, that's fine. Do it another way. But if you're willing to try a risky experiment, I think with a huge potential upside, then try it this way. And even if nothing so far is actually gonna work out, I think the kinds of ideas that are floating around and the discussions you would have with people in the space has a good chance of giving you a path forward that can be much better than anything else that existed before, in whatever purpose you have, if not to live longer than whatever else it might be that is more important.
Right. Well, that's phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thanks so much for sharing your story, your learning. It was such a pleasure to host you and such a pleasure to get to know you. Any ending thoughts from your side, like anything that I might have missed out on that you would like to say to the community? Would like to have your thoughts on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I would love to hear more from the community as well. What kind of things made sense and what didn't. What should I maybe zoom into? I don't know if there were any questions in some chat that you can relay or anything.
We do have a question. Would you like to take it up?
Sure.
Right. So I will just read it out to you. So Amit says, what is your priority as a DAO? To have more users or to have less but contributing members? I mean, how important is it for you to know the members in your DAO?
Definitely contributing members, right? I mean, just a vanity metric of token holders or Discord members or Twitter followers doesn't really help if I gotta do everything that takes me like 25 hours a day or something. So I definitely need people that can sort of work alongside all of us. So effective people, but obviously more people that are also contributing and effective is also even better.
Amazing. We have one more question. Second, Amit, Nilay, I think we can unmute Amit, so Amit can just like ask the question. I feel like it'll be really interesting if we can hear his voice live.
Hey, thank you so much, and thank you so much for all the thoughts, Lucas. I mean, it was absolutely amazing to hear from you. By the way, I'm a Queen fan myself, so I love the beginning as well. Just a couple of quick questions. I think you answered the first question already, as if if it's important for you to understand what sort of people are in your DAO, and you answered it very well, saying that if you keep doing that, that's about 25 hours of your day. Let me present something to you, which I will do it separately. One of my team members is going to reach out to you. But I have another follow-up question. Like Solana came up with the Web3 mobile phone. Ethereum came up with the merge. What do you think is innovation has been required in the Web3 to move forward? Or what are your thoughts?
What is the way to what?
What in your opinion is something that is very crucial and missing in Web3? Maybe a gap in Web3 that you may you would want to do something about and you're not able to. It can be as simple as identifying or blue ticking every single verified contributor on the chain, or something like that. I've been wrapping my head around it, but I would like to hear any thoughts of yours as well.
I think a seamless sort of integration between, a chat like Discord and a forum like Discourse with, sort of token, a way to use the token to vote and so on, instead of having to go to another platform where there's no comments. And then with that, use seamless ways to kind of have indeed reputation and compensation. Tools to sort of easily integrate and verify and award bounties and things like that. So there's less sort of manual work.
That's amazing to hear it from you, because I believe we do have a solution on the things that you're talking about. But as I said, I would not pollute the space, and I would take another time to showcase a couple of tools. One that I asked the first question of, and one that I asked the second question of, and maybe we can take this offline sometime.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your question, Amit. I feel like we have one question from Anushka. She asks, how long do you think it'll take for DAOs to be adopted in mainstream web, and how can we move the process faster?
I'm really not a DAO expert, right? I'm just trying to accelerate agent research here. And I think DAOs are a great alternative way of organizing people to a common goal. But I have no idea about how long it would take for it to get mainstream. I think it's on a really good trajectory, while it being also, of course, a huge experiment and many ways of doing it. So I'm really excited. I mean, imagine 5 years from now where we'll be and how things will look like. I don't think this idea, the cat is out of the bag. I don't think the idea will go away. And definitely not longer than a few years.
For sure. I think, what Amit was mentioning about that we as a company are working on this next product, which is called the contribution management tool. After speaking with so many DAO admins, one pain point, which keeps on echoing is there's you have so many different platforms to do like one task, right? Like you said, Discourse and Discord and forum management, governance, bounties, and so on and so forth. And I feel like we do need one platform to accelerate that process faster and for it to become more seamless, not just for admins but for contributors themselves. So I feel like he'll connect with you privately, and it'll be a great way for you to get to know that side of us as well. I think it'll be amazing. And thank you so much for taking up all the community questions, Lawrence, and thanks community for asking your questions. It was such a pleasure to host you today. Thank you for doing this. Really, really appreciate you, and extremely looking forward to everything that you guys are building. So proud and feel so great about all the work that you guys are doing towards longevity. I know it's not easy, but it is absolutely incredible and of such vital importance. So thank you for doing this today, Lawrence. It was really, really awesome to have you here.
Thank you.